Welcome to another episode of Noob Friendly Guides, a Valorant series built around helping new and lower elo players with agents, roles, maps, and more. This week we're going to be looking at an aspect of Valorant and FPS games in general that I truly believe will take you as far as Immortal or even higher if you're able to master. So, what am I talking about? Aim. Now when I say aim, I don't just mean click heads win games, though there is some truth to that meme. Rather, I mean all of the elements that come together to make your aim actually good. I've broken these elements into 3 categories, and I will go over them in detail in order to help you break your own game down so that you know what you're good at and what you need to improve on in order to take your aim to the next level. For reference, I've been playing FPS games for close to 20 years, with my first FPS game being Counter-Strike 1.6, which I played almost religiously, before moving on to franchises such as Halo and then eventually Valorant. And whilst these games all have slightly different mechanics as far as aim goes, the core concept that I will be going over here will apply to not only Valorant, but to all FPS games in general. Before we get into it, I'm quickly going to ask, if you enjoy my content, or just enjoy supporting smaller content creators, please hit that subscribe button, as well as giving me a big thumbs up, as it makes a huge difference to my discoverability on YouTube. Plus, I can personally guarantee that you'll all grow 3 inches in height and get the girl or boy of your dreams upon hitting subscribe. Thanks! So let's break it down. Part 1. Crosshair placement. Crosshair placement is number 1 on this list, as it is probably 70% of the reason whether you kill or die. This is the part of your game that you'll want to focus on pretty much more than any other. Game sense can get you far and can help you big brain enemies, but good crosshair placement will win you the vast majority of gunfights. The main thing that I see wrong with people's crosshair placement, from Iron all the way through to honestly even Diamond, is that people aim far too low. This could be for a variety of reasons, however it's usually due to a lack of confidence in your own ability to hit a headshot. If your reflexes are faster, then in lower elos you might get away with this, but as soon as you start ranking up, these sorts of tactics will no longer work, as going for 3 to 5 quick body shots simply takes too long when the enemy can and will take that extra half a second to aim and one-tap you. So what I recommend is this. Raise your crosshair. Whether it be running around the map or actively firing in a gunfight, raise your crosshair. At the start, you will probably feel less comfortable doing this, as you'll think that you're going to whiff every single shot, and you will at times. You might kill less people to start with, as the head is obviously a smaller target than the body. However, you will improve as you learn to focus on hitting only the head instead of playing it safe and hitting the body. It is better to hit the head once, especially if using a Vandal from range, than it is to hit the body a few times. A caveat on this would be if you already know that your opponent is low health, then going for a body shot makes more sense, as it's a higher likelihood of hitting the shot. But if you don't know, or if your enemy is at 150 HP, then it is always better to go for the headshot. Another part of this though, and this is just as important as aiming higher, is burst your shots. I know you've probably seen this or been told this 100 times, but it is the fastest way to improve your accuracy and your chances of getting a kill. Spraying in Valorant, depending on gun range, is very random, and even trying to control spray once you've learned these patterns is very difficult. If you're using a Vandal, I recommend firing in 1 to 3 bullet bursts, and once you get more confident, you can start incorporating strafing between these bursts to make life even more difficult for the enemy, though that is admittedly much more advanced. If you're using a Phantom, then you probably have an extra bullet or 2 in that burst before the spray sets in and it becomes more randomized, so even with the Phantom, try to go for bursts. The only caveat to this is if you're in a gunfight at close range with a Phantom or even a Spectre, spraying makes a lot more sense here, as the hitbox becomes larger and the randomness of the spray becomes much less of an issue. So remember, from medium to long range, burst 1 to 3 bullets. Short range spraying is fine, though maybe only for 5 to 10 bullets, and only if you have a Phantom or a Spectre or something that's more suited to short range fights. Another note is that with the Vandal, the recoil reset between bursts is a little longer than the Phantom. So if you do burst more than 3 or 4 bullets, if you stop shooting to reset your crosshair to the enemy's head and find, hey, I'm aiming at their head but the bullets are still flying like I'm spraying, then you need to wait a very short amount of time longer for that recoil to fully reset. Like I said, this is less of an issue for the Phantom, which is why a lot of people prefer it, though I personally prefer the Vandal for its 156 headshot damage at all ranges. I can't tell you the amount of times I've hit a headshot from range with a Phantom, only to do 140 damage and then get one-tapped in return by a Vandal. It's infuriating. Part 2. Pre-aim. Pre-aiming is a simple concept to grasp, but a difficult one to master. What it means is basically this: aim where you think, or eventually after many games, know where an enemy head is going to be. This is usually done by using recon from teammates or your own util, as well as game sense, to hold an angle that you know an enemy is going to push, placing your crosshair at the height that their head will be at when they do push, as well as giving yourself enough room to move your mouse as little as possible. Pre-aiming is simply that, minimizing how much you actually have to move your mouse and instead letting the enemy run straight into your crosshair. This requires decent reaction time, but the more you do it, the better you will get. This is also why I recommend at the start giving yourself perhaps a little more room to let the enemy run into your crosshair, as it gives you more time to adjust if need be. Once you improve, or if you notice that a specific enemy is only short peeking or jiggle peeking, you can pre-aim closer to the wall or box or whatever it is that they'll be pushing out from to give them the least amount of time possible to actually see you. I can't tell you the amount of kills that I get simply from playing the game a lot, knowing where people push and knowing their head height for that spot, and simply putting my crosshair there and waiting, basically baiting them into running into my crosshair for an easy kill. One thing you should do is try to take note of the positions you're taking up when holding an angle, and try to take note of where the enemy's heads usually are when they push. Once you get a good idea of this, pre-aiming becomes very second nature and will net you a lot of easy frags. A note about pre-aiming is that in these gunfight scenarios, you'll be making micro adjustments to your crosshair placement rather than large ones in very open fights. So due to this, and due to the higher precision in general, I recommend lower mouse sensitivities. I play at 0.175 in-game sense at 1600 DPI, which equates to roughly 280 eDPI. eDPI means effective dots per inch, and is just a way to know what general sensitivity people are playing a game at, as some people prefer 400, 800, 1600 or even higher mouse DPIs. If you don't know your mouse DPI, then it is usually 800 by default. I don't recommend playing it really any more than say 4 to 500 eDPI, as making micro adjustments with your aim will be very difficult and less precise. Though obviously flicking becomes somewhat easier, though even that is somewhat negligible. If you want to know your eDPI, I've included a link in the description where you can figure that out, but I do recommend lowering your sense, playing at a lower sensitivity for a while, adjusting, and then very gradually raising it until you find that sweet spot between movement speed and precision, because I find most lower elo players are simply playing at too high of a sensitivity. Part 3. Gun selection. The first two parts that I discussed, which were crosshair placement and pre-aim, will take you about 95% of the way as far as getting kills go. Improve on those two fundamentals and you will drastically improve your overall game and rank up much faster. This last point is that final 5% and is less of a mechanical thing to improve on and more of a mental thing that I'm sure most of you do already, but if not, this is for you. Use your gun the way it's meant to be used. I'll give you a scenario as an example to explain this. Are you playing on Breeze? Are you holding caves from right pyramid? Then why do you have a Spectre? That is a long range angle that a Spectre simply does not do well on. Buy a Vandal, or a Phantom, or if on an eco round, then even a Marshall is a better choice. These are guns suited to that exact scenario that you're in, and will do far more damage compared to a gun like a Spectre that does less damage per bullet, but is designed to hit the target a lot, making it great for short range fights. Another example is on, say, Bind. Are you holding Garden, waiting for that push from B long? Then you have two choices dependent on what kind of play you're going for. Are you going to try and get kills from range? Is your aim crispy today and you're good with a Vandal or an Op? Then swing out, maybe playing an agent like a Jet or a Chamber so that you can quickly get out of that scenario if you notice, holy shit, there's 4 people rushing me. But if you're playing passively, then you'd want to hide behind one of the walls, buying a gun like a Spectre or even a Judge, guns that do very little damage from range but are highly impactful up close, bide your time, and then pop out at the right moment to deliver a huge amount of damage in a very short period of time. These are just a few examples of picking the right gun for the right play, and only you know what play you're going to be making that round. So once the round starts, figure out what you're going to be trying to achieve that round based on things such as attack or defense side, how the enemy has been playing, how your own aim is that day, etc, etc. Take all these into account, make a decision on how you want the round to go, and pick a gun based on that. Another quick example for this would be, I'm playing on Fracture. We're on defense. I know they have at least one op, so I will not be pushing B main because that is a very long range, commonly used spot for ops. I will play instead on the site with a Phantom or a Spectre, as I believe they will try and get a B main pick and then rush the site. If this happens, then they will have to push through the util to get onto the site itself, keeping an eye on defender side spawn, as well as canteen, tower, and even arcade. That is a lot of angles for the attacking team to have to be aware of, and I'm hidden behind this wall waiting. So once I hear them on the stairs, what do? Do I wait for them to get on site? No, because once they're physically on the site itself, it means they've likely cleared these other areas or have a wall up protecting them, meaning there's now less angles for them to worry about and more chance that I'm in the position that they're going to be looking at. So when I hear these footsteps on the stairs, I pop out knowing it's going to be a close range fight and try to get as many kills as possible, catching them off guard while they are likely looking in every direction except for the one that I am in. This is just an example and admittedly a little more advanced, but shows you that if you think about how you want the round to go and make calculated decisions on which gun best suits which scenario, you put yourself in a better position to get kills and win rounds. One additional note that I have is that apparently Valorant is built in blocks. By this I mean there are a lot of things that are the same height because the game is built in quite a simple way. As per this picture from Reddit, one box, for example, is usually 2 blocks, and an agent is also 2 blocks in height. So if an enemy is standing right next to a box, then the top of the box should match around head height on that enemy. This obviously changes based off of distance that you and the enemy are away from these sorts of markers, but it is something that once I learnt has had a huge impact on how I place my crosshair, especially when pre-aiming. It's not always going to be a box, but it could be the height of a window or a wall, anything. But there are usually markers that give you a good idea as to where the enemy's head will be if they're standing next to it. So try to take note of these sorts of things when you play, and you'll notice that pre-aiming becomes even easier. And that's it! Using these tips, I guarantee that your aim will improve. Though I will say, do not try too many things at once. Slow your game down, especially if you're graduating from body shots to headshots. Take that extra half a second, because in lower elos, people are very, very poor under pressure. So take that extra half a second, aim at their head, and notice how quickly your aim improves. Over time, that half second or full second will become shorter and shorter, and you'll be dominating with one taps before you know it. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, guys. As always, let me know what you think in the comments, if there's anything that I've maybe missed, or if this guide has helped you improve. I'll respond to every message, and I truly appreciate the support. Catch me live on Twitch via the links below in the description, and I will see you all next time. Thanks, guys.